So I just finished Ginny and Georgia and I honestly enjoyed it. I love the story of the mother-daughter relationship because I don't think that's something that I've seen often, or maybe I just haven't watched enough TV and movies, which is very possible. Let's start with Georgia. She's a very charismatic character that I honestly loved from the start. I mean, there were clearly times where I could tell she was doing some pretty messed up stuff, like telling her kid to punch someone in the face, and that happened in like pretty much the first episode. But from her perspective, everything that she does makes sense considering the life that she led. Georgia's life was never an easy one. She ran away from home at 15 because she was living in an abusive household, not to mention she got pregnant not too long after that as well. And really, that's barely scratching the surface of it all when it comes to her story. But all she has ever wanted to do was to protect the kids that she has because she never had anyone to protect her. And she's fully capable of taking care of herself, which is very obvious. But look what she had to give up to do that. And I fully believe that she operates from the love that she has for her kids because she would go to the ends of the earth for them. But that doesn't mean that her actions don't affect them negatively, which is a big character point for Ginny. And I'm not talking about what is technically or legally right or wrong, but as an audience member, I had a lot of understanding for her and overall wanted to support her throughout the series. She clearly still has a lot of growing to do, but season 3 seems like it was a big turning point for her. In my opinion, we get the clearest understanding of George's way of thinking when she kills Mr. Fuller in season 2. She sees how much Cynthia is suffering and she sees a solution. But her solution is most definitely not one that's technically right. But in her mind, she is saving the Fuller family from further suffering by ending the pain there once and for all, even if it's by her own hands. However, she doesn't consider the fact that even though Cynthia wants her situation to be over, it wasn't fair of Georgia to make that decision of when it ends herself. And that pretty much encompasses her entire relationship with Ginny. Boundaries are pretty much non-existent, and it's impossible for Ginny to express any of her problems in her life without Georgia taking a problem into her own hands and either making it about herself or just making it harder for Ginny down the line. And it's not like it's Georgia's intention to make things worse for Ginny. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. But intentions don't really matter when your actions have negative consequences that can affect the people around you. Speaking of Ginny, though, she is another character that I genuinely enjoyed from the beginning. I can't find it in my heart of hearts to find a traumatized kid annoying, and her journey through trying to understand her mother and her becoming her mother in season 3 has been pretty engaging overall. It's pretty clear that Ginny feels that she has no control over her life, and it makes sense since she has never had any kind of stability. She's always moving around whenever her mother's love life went south. She's never had a chance to make friends. She's never stayed in one school for too long. It's always been up in the air for her. But she sees that Georgia has always been considered a force. This is something that was mentioned a lot, I believe, in season 2 and season 3. And it's something that Ginny has never taken a full grasp of. But in season 3, she's starting to take a hold of what that means for herself, and even Georgia acknowledges that it's not a good path to go down. Overall, I really like Ginny as a character. I don't think I ever found her annoying or anything, and I only ever wanted her to get better. And I was happy to see that Georgia realized that she needed a fundamental change in the way that she operates to ultimately help her daughter. Let's talk a little bit about the Mang friendship. Unfortunately, the Mang friendship overall was not really motivating until season 3. This is obviously a personal opinion, but so is this entire video. There were some characters I liked and were more interested in, like Max and Abby, but I'll talk a little bit more about them later. And I'm no expert in friendship or anything, but it really felt like the friend group didn't really like each other that much in the beginning. Like, I know they have been friends since they were kids, specifically Max, Abby, and Nora. They have their own inside speak and jokes and stuff, and I honestly really like the hate you kidding, love you mean it that they always do. I genuinely find it pretty endearing, but a lot of their interactions together felt strained in the sense that, like, I don't know if they were chill with each other most of the time. And the beginning of season 2 really exemplified this. And I completely understand that Max is mad that her new friend, Ginny, was sleeping with her brother, and her other best friend, Abby, kept it a secret from her. But the way she reacted to it all was completely unfair in my opinion, and Nora's complete complicitness didn't help at all. Granted, this is mentioned and brought up later, but I still think throughout the beginning of season 2, it's a bit much. Abby was trying her absolute best to make it up to her, but Max really couldn't care less. Season 3 helped the friendship dynamic because the girls were actually talking to each other about their issues and problems. This is a pretty ironic statement though, because Max was feeling the most left out this entire season, but I do think that they have a foundation to grow from and actually make me believe in this friendship. Time for a little bit more of like quick fire topics, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is how all the men kind of pissed me off in season 3. Now, I never really liked Austin's dad, and I honestly don't remember his name, and I'm not gonna go look it up. So he was constantly going downhill whenever he was on screen. Paul seemed to be supportive and loving and caring in the beginning, but he was very quick to jump off board. And to a degree, I can understand that he felt that he never knew Georgia because she was always keeping something from him, and there was always a lie and always something that wasn't told. So from that point, I completely understand where he's coming from. And the worst thing that Georgia did was pretend that she was pregnant to keep him on her side for the court case. And the more I talk about this, the more it sounds bad because it is. Georgia wasn't right for a lot of the things she did in this relationship, especially towards the end. So I get why he was angry, but it was the expression of that anger, especially since he knew that Georgia was abused, that was what took me off of his side. Zion, oh Zion. It's easy to see why he would try to take Ginny because he wanted to protect her. But something that never sat right with me was the fact that he was always capable of being part of Ginny's life, but because of him and George's inability to resist each other, they both left Ginny with no stable parental figures. And considering that Zion has been with Georgia through some of the worst times in her life, to look at her like he has no idea who she is feels a bit unfair. He obviously didn't know the extent of what she has done, and I get that he wanted to protect the kids, but still, it didn't sit right with me as the viewer who knows what Georgia has been through. And again, it's a bit unfair of me considering as a viewer, I'm omnipotent. I know everything that Georgia has been through, so I can understand her actions, and I can see, honestly, that she wasn't always wrong. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that. Now, I'm not trying to absolve Georgia of her actions and say that she's the perfect woman who has done no wrong, but the show does make sure that I have an understanding of her side, and I feel like it wants me to root for her, and they succeeded in that. Alright, so that topic wasn't actually as quick as I thought it was going to be, but these ones will be a bit quicker. Marcus is a character that I personally really liked, but I think that might be because I identify with his struggle. He has depression and that affects all facets of his life, and sometimes it seems like everything is going to be fine, but then everything comes rushing back to you and it seems like nothing will ever be okay. And he has very self-destructive tendencies, and there's a part of him that I can really understand and I can really empathize with. Max. Now, Max's character is also super interesting, and I'm most excited for her storyline in season 4. She is by far the most animated character in the show, but they've made some interesting parallels with Marcus in terms of how she feels, and even though she is the most, expressive in terms of saying what she feels and everything like that, there's a lot of her that is still subdued, especially when it comes to her real feelings. Abby is another character who I'm excited to see more of in season 4. With her new discovered sexuality, I wonder if she's going to be able to express herself more in the next season, and hopefully also be able to get help for her eating disorder. She's pretty much the complete opposite of Max, who is very big and loud with everything, but Abby's very subdued and suffers in the background. With that being said, I do think that season 3 really showed that Max also does suffer too, but no one really listens to her because of the way that she expresses herself. And then there's Nora, and I really don't know too much about Nora, and at this point I don't know how much they can give to her character now that we're going to season 4. Overall, could the writing be better? Sure. Could some of the characters get more screen time so I can actually care about them? Absolutely. And they stop bringing in characters that don't need any more screen time? I would hope. I would give Ginny and Georgia a 6.5 out of 10, and I'm honestly looking forward to a 4th season because it's a pretty fun show.